from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, a bottle of milk and one dairy producer get a little time in the spotlight over the holiday weekend.
Winners drink milk!
Floodwaters continuing to push further south.
That means we cannot hold back water.
And with more wet weather on the way, should you plant and take the financial hit, switch to soybeans, or prevent plant?
It is a little scary.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. USDA says it may be weeks until farmers know just how much money they could receive with the new China trade aid. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue saying USDA is intentionally not releasing the new payment amounts for trade aid right now so it doesn't sway planning decisions. This comes during a time when USDA announced a second round of Trump tariff aid payments. Trade Aid 2.0 will be released to farmers under the Market Facilitation Program. This time, eligible non-specialty crops from cotton to corn will have the same payment amount per crop. Instead, the price paid will vary by county. Perdue speaking with AgriTalk host Chip Flory saying farmers should make their decisions as if they won't receive a payment at all.
We're not going to get an announcement on what the payment rate is on a county basis until after the June acreage report at the end of the month.
I'm not saying that for sure, but
Okay.
I want to let people know they need to make their planting decisions, their cropping decisions, all of their production decisions based on where they see the market and where they see their own weather patterns and what they can get in, when they can get in the fields in their own area.
Farmers are eligible for 3 possible payments. The only one guaranteed right now is expected to be released in July. Perdue says there will be a cap on how much farmers will be able to receive under the payments. It has been a tough spring for farmers across the Corn Belt with a wet spring, lack of planning, and trade concerns. But will this potential trade payment affect your planning decisions? AgDay's Betsy Gibbon joins us from the newsroom with more. Betsy.
Clinton, farmers are faced with 3 different paths right now. They can either plant and take a financial hit, switch to soybeans, or try prevent plant. And we look at all 3 in an effort to arm you with information.
We're kind of late. Honestly, I'm a little late. I'd like to have done it a week ago.
A week ago has turned into weeks. Wet fields stretching across the Midwest, leading to a historically slow start to spring. It's to the point where most areas are passing the date to plant corn and be fully covered under federal crop insurance, adding in yield drag, variety issues, and it makes the decision harder.
When we move from a full season corn to a mid to an early season corn, as you move down that rung, you're giving up yield.
So do you plant and take a financial hit, switch to soybeans, or take prevent plant?
If your costs are down and you own the ground, I've had some customers, their prevent plant was $400 plus dollars an acre, and they're like, you know what? I can't make that kind of money trying to plant this crop at current levels.
The switch to plant more soybeans can be complicated, especially since domestic soybean stocks are much higher.
Last year's ending stocks at 438 million bushels, and this year the USDA has ending stocks at 995 million bushels, just under that billion bushel mark. That is a more than double increase from what we had last year to what we have at the end of this year.
On top of that, the department announcing the second round of Trump tariff aid payments to farmers with limited details.
Certainly, we have not disclosed details that would distort planning intentions for intentional purposes.
Will it give more of an incentive to plant something or take prevent plant payments? One analyst says, generally speaking, corn acres in preventative plant will receive a much higher payment than soybeans.
Most farmers will have a higher prevent plant payment for corn than for soybeans, and generally that runs around $80 to $100 per acre. That will depend on the coverage level, and that example is for the same coverage level for both corn and soybeans.
USDA says farmers should not let the new trade aid payments determine what they plant. However, with payments now in the mix, the number of acres is anyone's guess.
The talks of 10 to 12 million prevent plant acres for corn and soybeans, that might be overstated at this point, because just for the promise of getting a payment on planted acres, and honestly, if I'm looking at the payments being the same for corn and for soybeans, it's a lot more attractive to plant corn, especially after the rally we just had.
A spring to remember.
It is a little scary. We're not quite maybe as motivated as it was in years before.
As farmers hope the fall is one they will never forget for the right reasons. Analysts say it's best to talk things over with your crop insurance person, banker, and agronomist before making a final decision. Clinton?
All right, thanks, Betsy. And it's now officially the wettest year on record across the Farm Belt. And that's leading to delays in the movement of fertilizer and other ag materials. Mississippi River barge traffic was blocked for a time, pushing at least one fertilizer supplier to use costlier rail transport to deliver products. Now, we're told a large backlog is now waiting and rains could shut the river again. And now a new flooding concern, this time along the Arkansas River in Little Rock. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers saying the river is expected to exceed the levels set in the May 1990 flood. And the Corps says the water is not coming from the sky, but from upstream in Oklahoma and Kansas, where there were heavy rains, and from snowmelt coming out of Colorado.
It's important to know that these structures on the Arkansas River within Arkansas are not flood control structures. These are designed for navigation. We hold enough water to keep a 9-foot channel the entire distance of the Arkansas River from here down to Arkansas Post. That means we cannot hold back water.
Dixon says the Tulsa, Oklahoma district is having to release water out of its flood control structure because it's full. He says the structure has been holding back water for weeks. And flooding isn't just an issue right now along the Arkansas River. We told you last week about what's happening further south along the Mississippi. But there are still concerns along the Missouri, as meteorologist Cindy Clausen shows us in today's Crop Comments.
Well, Clinton, look at this video shared by Megan Perry Kaiser on Twitter. Megan lives in Carrollton, Missouri. That's about 5 miles from the Missouri River. Now, this video of her husband driving on a gravel road between two fields. She says GPS helped him keep on the path. Megan says this is the 3rd flood on their property just this season. Well, hopefully things do get better for you. Unfortunately, there is going to be more rain as we head into the week. I'll take a look at your national forecast coming up.
Late Friday, USDA released its May 1st cattle on feed numbers. The agency says total cattle and calves on feed in the nation's largest feed yards was 11.8 million head. Now that's 2% more than a year ago on May, and it's the highest May 1st inventory since the report started back in 1996. Placements, they were way up, climbing 9% over 2018 with 1.84 million head. And marketings of fed cattle during April, they came in at 1.93 million head, 7% higher than a year ago. In pork, China says it's starting clinical trials of a new African swine fever vaccine. A state-owned research firm says it's found 2 candidates capable of providing immunity to the disease. Now, ASF has decimated the world's largest hog herd. Scientists in other countries say they're less optimistic, adding that creating and launching a vaccine would be extremely difficult. USDA recently said a vaccine could take 8 years to develop. The EPA could soon be unveiling a scaled-down version of the proposed biofuel credit market reform, or RIN market. That's according to Reuters. It says sources tell them regulators have concluded many of the agency's initial ideas require more study time, and the president had told the EPA to have a reform plan finalized by June 1st. That's when the move to year-round sales of E15 is supposed to happen. Now, RINs are credits to refiners that blend ethanol into gasoline, and the oil refining industry has complained about the cost for those credits that they must buy in order to comply with the biofuel law. An unusual find in a commercial load of carrots coming over the Mexican border. Take a look. Customs and Border Protection officials saying they found $18.5 million worth of meth in the load of carrots. It happened at the crossing into Pharr, Texas. A K-9 team found 384 packages of meth in the trailer, weighing almost 930 pounds. When we come back, playing with the corn balance sheet, how difficulties this spring could have a major impact on carryouts this fall. And later, celebrating victory with a cold glass of milk. Meet the Indy 500 milkman and his cows today in the country.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
We're joined today by Jim McCormick. He's with agmarket.net. Jim, let's talk about corn and the spreadsheet that you're working off of. It's a pretty dynamic spreadsheet as we continue to watch what's happening with planting. You've got some examples here that you want to walk us through.
Yeah, right now, Clevin, we're looking at right now is a situation where the corn market's definitely struggling, or the corn crop's struggling to get in. The government right now is working for a yield or planted acres a little over 92.8 million acres,
right,
and a trend yield of 176. With the struggle we're getting this crop in right now, we think that's no way. We think the acres, planted acres, are actually going to be closer to maybe this 89.2 at the current, with the current forecast. But that's only one part of the equation. You lower the acres, but with this crop being planted so late, you're planting in June, you historically get a yield drag 8, 9, 10 bushels an acre traditionally, because the crop just doesn't have enough time to mature. A lot of people don't realize if we plant this crop this late, you're looking at about 6 billion bushels of corn that are actually not going to hit maturity potentially until after the first frost date, the first week of October.
Wow.
So there's a lot of risk. So the yield will drop down to 176. And what I want to point out to the viewers out there is right now the government projected to carry out about 2.5 billion bushels. If we lower that yield to 167, lower that acreage down to 89.2, you're looking at about a 1.1 billion carryout. So you're going to see a drastic change in the balance sheet with any kind of, if this weather situation does not improve dramatically. And right now, it's not going to improve dramatically.
Plus, we have to harvest this, right? And you could even change the amount of acres we're harvested, right?
Well, that's right. Like right now, we're using our harvested acres right now about 92% of where we're at right now, roughly. And that, because you don't harvest everything you plant. It gets, that's just statistically what it is. But on wet years, you don't harvest it. In 1993, we only harvested a shade below 96% of the crop we planted. This number we're working with right now at the 81.8 roughly is a 92% harvested yield roughly. If we drop that down to like 90, 88, back to those numbers, this number right here, 1.1, it would drop below a billion without rationing demand. So what that means is this price of corn is going to have to higher to either slow down that rationing demand. It's just a matter of how fast it'll go.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of moving pieces here as we try to get this crop in the ground and see what's going to happen. We just don't know what the weather means.
The weather, it's all up to the weather right now. But right now, going in, the weather the next 2 weeks does look wet, and it looks like we're going to see a lot of prevent plant acres, we believe.
I appreciate it, Jim. Thank you so much. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up.
To contact Jim McCormick at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen here looking at rainfall over the past week. And Cindy, you can really see there in northern Oklahoma, southern Kansas, that boy, that guy just got nailed.
It's awful. I mean, just rain after rain after rain, and you can see exactly what happens here. It gets very, very wet. Here's a look at your rainfall. This is over last week, and we've actually had more over the weekend. As we zoom in a little bit closer, you can see those areas, just the bullseye right here in northeastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas. Most of the state of Kansas has just been inundated with rain. You can see that into Missouri, Iowa, and we had some heavier rains in parts of the northern plains and upper Midwest as well. And it's not looking great even as we head into the week ahead of us as we see additional rains in the forecast. Let's take a look at the jet stream map. Now, as we head through the week, we're still going to see this cutoff low down in the Four Corners region, still on the warm side for much of the eastern part of the country. Now, this trough is going to continue to move on off to the east, and we'll see some cooler temperatures as you get into the Great Lakes area, and then we see that warm up in parts of the west. As we head into next weekend, we'll be seeing those temperatures cooling down maybe a little bit in the upper Great Lakes as we see another trough there, perhaps bringing some wet weather as well. Let's take a look at what's expected as we head through the week. We're going to see warmer than normal temperatures continuing in a lot of the southeastern part of the United States, with mostly that ridge in place. A little on the cool side in the upper Midwest, and then stretching back down to the Four Corners region, just slightly warmer than normal in the Pacific Northwest. But here's the real bad news, as that we're expecting above normal precipitation from the northeast Great Lakes, but especially in these really hard hit areas in parts of the Corn Belt and parts of the plains, where we're expecting above normal precipitation, even to parts of the Four Corners region and out west as well. Looks drier than normal in the southeast and into the Pacific Northwest. As far as the 30-day temperatures, well, we're looking to stay warm in the southeast, a little bit in the northwest as well. Cooler than normal as you head into the plain states, so we'll have to keep an eye on that as far as how it's going to affect anybody that actually has had some planting done. Looks like on the dry side in the southeast, but this is not good news either because the longer range into the next 30 days also looks wet for some of those same areas. I wish I had better news for you. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the places where you live. Mad River, California, mostly sunny with a high of 68 degrees. Bay Springs, Mississippi, mostly sunny and hot with a high of 93 degrees. And Washburn, Maine, partly to mostly sunny with a high of 60 degrees.
Still ahead, an update on the next step in the dairy margin coverage program, plus what this strange contraption is all about when it comes to a dairy farm in the Netherlands. USDA is one step closer to meeting its enrollment goal of June 17th for the Dairy Margin Coverage Program. Now, last week, USDA forwarded the final rule to the Office of Management and Budget for review. Over the past few months, USDA has announced the margin levels used to trigger payments each month, and the program is retroactive to January 1st. Apparently, even cows need their day on the water. Check this out. It's the world's first floating dairy farm. It's in the Netherlands. The three-tiered building will feature a robotic milking system, robotic feeding system, and an airtight manure storage area. The idea here is to address the problem of feeding a growing population during a time when there's also competition for land. The floating farm, which is docked in Rotterdam, is expected to produce more than 200 gallons of milk and yogurt each day. It will be home to 32 cows. The Indy 500 has a great farming tradition. The winner drinks a glass of milk provided by a local dairyman. We'll meet this year's milkman next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
In the Country is powered by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll.
Did you watch the Indy 500 over the Memorial Day weekend? A tradition at Indy, the winner drinking a bottle of milk. Caitlin Kendall from the NBC station in Fort Wayne, Indiana, introduces us to this year's milkman.
Just off the beaten path.
Hey, girls.
Everyone in Keenert Farms is hard at work.
Right here, Daddy?
It's a place where co-workers are family. The fifth-generation Homestead Dairy Farm has been here for over 125 years. It's a way of life for the Keenerts.
And wouldn't trade it for anything.
The Keenerts say family doesn't just include people. The cows, around 800 of them, are too. And they're treated like royalty.
Come on, big girl.
Each with their own name. After all, they are producing around 3,300 gallons of milk a day. Andrew Keenert says being raised on the farm has made him who he is today.
But I just remember as a little kid walking around helping with the cows, always loving to be around the cows, and just working here as a family is what we did. You know, every weekend and every day we'd be here working as a family.
That family atmosphere.
Straw or hay? Straw.
Yes, straw, yeah.
Something Andrew's brother Nathan is quick to recognize as well.
You sit down at the end of the day and, you know, especially after a tough day, if nothing went right, you sit down and you say, you know what, things aren't that bad. You know, we got 4 generations here, and it's pretty neat when you really sit down and think about it.
Dairy farming is not your traditional 9-to-5.
It's a 365-day-a-year job. We can't ever take a day off. You know, those animals are always here, and no matter what, we have to make sure those animals are well taken care of.
That includes Thanksgiving morning, that includes Christmas morning. You say when we get done at the end of the day, we truly never get done at the end of the day.
A labor of love the Keenerts are proud to do every day.
The farm has taught me so many things in life, dedication and passion, and just being able how to take care of animals. You know, we treat every one of our animals out here like family members. They're our girls.
That hard work and dedication, taking the Keenerts from the farm to the finish line.
I get chills right now just thinking about it, you know, being a winner's circle last year and being right there and seeing that driver never really gets that moment of victory until he drinks that glass of milk or that bottle of milk.
Winners drink milk!
Last year, Andrew got the chance to be the rookie milkman for the Indy 500, providing milk to the winning team. But this year, he's packing his bags for a more special honor. On Sunday, he'll hand deliver the winning driver their choice of milk. An honor, Andrew says, doesn't just make him excited.
No matter who wins the Indy 500 this year, I mean, just so they're happy to drink that milk and know what it means to dairy farmers and everybody out there, it's going to be absolutely amazing down in Victory Circle.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spend part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day, Farm Country.